The weirdest theory, it's called time slipping. And it's a thing in England, especially in Liverpool. There's a street called Bold Street, and there are people who have said they somehow revert to a different time where they see much older things than they should be seeing when they're walking around. Now, there's a woman named Julie French, and she was on Danny Robbins' Uncanny, the show on BBC. She said it happened to her on Bold Street.
I stood here and I looked into the window, and the display was old-fashioned, like 1940s vintage shoes and handbags. They looked really good quality, and I thought, oh, wow. I didn't know whether it was vintage or they just put on an old-fashioned 40s theme. And then I turned and seen the people. I'd probably seen about 12 people, but they were in like 1940s, 1950s clothes.
I love the idea that this could be something that's possible, and maybe our preconceived notion of time is maybe not what we think it is. Is time linear, or is the nature of time a little more fluid than we might actually
You got to
think?
explain that because people don't understand it.
The best way that I've heard it described is this theory of quantum fluctuations, right? So the most compelling version of that is think of space and time as maybe a fabric all around us everywhere. If there's a ripple in that fabric, in theory, it's possible somebody could have a time skip, which is what this is alluding to.
But isn't time subjective? It's relative. Like when I go on a 4-hour trip, it's a 4-hour trip. But when my daughter goes on it, she's like, oh my God, it's taking like 4 days. It's relative. I think time is relative and subjective.
No, but it may be relative, but what you see, what she saw, is very different.
She's reporting that she somehow was launched into the past.
And she doesn't claim to have like a psychic ability, right? Some psychics claim to be able to see a different temporal time period around them, but they know they're not actually there. But in this case, there was another man who entered the store at the same time, and they're looking around like, what's going on here? And then it switched back like, oh, thank goodness, because from the outside, everything looked different.
So this is the crease in the fabric.
Yeah.
There's this fun idea going around in our community right now on a T-symmetry universe. So in our universe, we move forward in time. Space-time is a 4-dimensional mathematical model, 3 layers of space, right? So this is like 2D, we're 3D, and then fourth being time. So that's what space-time is when we talk about space-time. So a T-symmetry universe would be alongside ours, moving backwards in time, which actually kind of checks in a way, because in space, you can move forward and back, you can go left and right, but in time, why can't we go backwards? So if there was an alternate universe alongside of ours, it would actually also mathematically explain the acceleration of our universe. Mathematically, it actually checks pretty well, but it would be a universe in reverse entropy, which as a mathematician is like the worst phrase ever. So if there was a universe alongside of ours that was actually moving backwards in time as we go forward, that story would only make sense to me if they were seeing it go backwards.
I'm out.
My head hurts.
You're too smart for me.